And good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is FPC Radio Live. We're hitting us up live on another Friday. Wow, I kind of screwed that one up, but it's all right. It's been a long week. I've been dealing with some interesting people on Twitter, John. It's really made me question people in general. This isn't sports related, so I'll nip it in the butt there. But let's just say that I'm a little bit. Yeah, you know what? I am triggered. I know that's used as like a negative thing and a gotcha moment, John, but I am triggered. I am triggered by stupidity. I'm triggered by just unnecessary hate and just ignorance. And, unfortunately, Twitter X or whatever the hell you want to call it, it's chock full of it these days, John. Chock full of it.
It's an open form, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So
yeah, well, there's a lot of bad and indifferent. So,
true.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's been an interesting morning.
It had nothing to do with anybody's top 10 list, right?
Like no.
Or anything like that.
No.
Make sure it wasn't that or Dr. J's top 10 list of great all-time NBA players. But I kind of know what you're going with and dealing with. So I try to avoid all that fun stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems to find me. But it's just like I said, it irks me. There's just a lot of things that people are very emboldened to say, I guess, these days. I don't know. It's concerning, but whatever. This is sports show, so we're going to stick with sports. And we got some NFL football last night, John. I know it's just a Hall of Fame game. Jets blew a lead, by the way. I'm never going to be sick of watching a Jets team lose. But preseason, we got a little bit of a taste, and you happy that football's back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly excited. I mean, especially the Hall of Fame game, which, by the way, why is that stadium named after Tom Benson? Is Tom Benson even in the Hall of Fame? I know he was the New Orleans Saints owner, the guy that used to dance on the field with the umbrella. Like, the stadium is actually named Tom Benson Field or Tom Benson Stadium. So I was just kind of scratching my head on why that happened. That was my takeaway from everything. But, yeah, I mean, obviously didn't see many, if any, of the major players. We did get to see Zach Wilson, who I think for the next 2 years is kind of serving apprentice behind Aaron Rodgers. But at the end of this year, they have to decide if they want to give him a fifth-year option, which is going to be around $25 million. That's going to be a major decision for the Jets. That wouldn't go into effect till his fifth year when Aaron Rodgers is already retired. But, yeah, no, I'm excited that we're heading towards football, which is a little more than a month away for the real game.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is always like, okay, you get a little bit of a taste, but then you're like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is on the sidelines. And I feel at times the camera was on him more than the actual game, just on the sidelines talking. And, the media, like we talked about, the honeymoon period, not just with the Jets fans and the organization, but just with the media. I mean, seems to actually been going on for about 15 years now. He is a media darling, John. The media love him.
He is, because I think one of the reasons is he's a little different. Plus, he gives people a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, he's not your cookie cutter quarterback who comes out and says things that the team kind of puts in front of him. Like, he's not just reading from a script. He's kind of his own thinker, which makes people who cover the sports job maybe a little easier, that we actually can talk about him. I mean, when we talk about Tom Brady, we talk about his greatness, obviously, right? But in Patrick Mahomes, who's right now the best quarterback in football, I wouldn't say dull off the field, but it's more about his wife and brother who seem to create more of a groundswell of information or entertainment, if that's what you want to call it. Rodgers is a guy that, you either like or don't like or love or hate because he's out there, right? I mean, he's a little different than the other quarterbacks, and I think that the media kind of starving for that, especially like sports talk radio. It's like, let's listen to what Aaron Rodgers said today and let's, spend a segment on it because it's maybe kooky. And then you got to try to interpret exactly what he was getting at in some of his statements because he is very passive aggressive.
Yeah. And again, we're not going to probably see that much, the passive aggressiveness, until, there's some issues down the line. So it's an interesting, like I said, I'm curious to see how long the honeymoon phase is going to happen, because it's not. I don't think it's going to be smooth. I know some predictions have them going 13-4, but even like I said, even Brady and the Bucks had their struggles during the season, and we know it could take some time for this whole thing to mesh together. So I'll be curious to see what the patience is like from the fans, and a fan base that is desperate. John, I don't even think desperate is the right word. It's beyond desperation. It's not BBO, but it's DDO. I don't know. Those letters don't really line up. I just wanted to make a Seinfeld reference there. But the point is, I think Jets fans are just starved to the point of, I don't know if they're going to be that patient. Like, if they go out and get blown, imagine they have a 31-0 game like that. Remember the 2003 Patriots started the season 31-0, and that was on the heels of obviously the Lawyer Malloy deal and everything like that. That happens to the Jets in week 1. I think they might be ringing the panic bell or pressing the panic button right away, because, well, it's the Jets, and there's a lot of torment in that franchise, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of ugly past history that would rear its ugly head. But I don't know. Maybe that's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. Obviously, it's New York City, which is not exactly the most patient city in the country or on the planet, to say the least. And yeah, to your point, the Buccaneers were 7-5, had a bye week, and Brady and Arians had a meeting, and basically Brady took over from there, and they won 8 straight games and hoisted the Lombardi Trophy a couple months later. Let's not forget, Tampa's opening game that year was at New Orleans, and Brady threw a pick 6, and they lost to the Saints, and everyone's like, "Oh, this isn't going to work." But it was still Tom Brady, who had already had 6 Super Bowl wins behind him. But yeah, sometimes it's going to be a little choppy at the beginning. Now, the following year, Matt Stafford went ahead and won a Super Bowl, and the Rams, I believe, at one point were 6-4, and then they finished strong as well, because it takes time to get up to speed with your teammates. You're in a new environment, a new system, whatever it may be. So it may take some time, and the opener is at home against the Buffalo Bills on a Monday night. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Aaron Rodgers and Buffalo Bills in that situation. Yeah, it's not going to be a patient fan base. I mean, and we're also talking about a quarterback who's going to be 40 in December. It's not like Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Okay, he's the first overall pick. He struggled his first year. His second year, he starts to look like an elite quarterback. Okay, so now you're on your way to thinking you can have a 10-year run with a great quarterback. With Aaron Rodgers, it's like he's going to be 40, and last year his play was not up to par. Is he washed, or was it just an off season?
Yeah, look, I certainly, I hate the word washed, because I think it's silly to, I don't know. Like, I don't think he's the same MVP quarterback from, I say 2020, because I think he was far better in 2020 and we know how I feel about 2021. I don't think I don't think he should have won it. I think Brady was very clearly the better quarterback that year. But I don't think I think there, just like you've brought up before, there's so many factors last season that kind of helped, add to this, or add to these struggles, and kind of the, you can fault him for checking out. I mean, absolutely. You can sit here and make the case that, yeah, he should have, despite all the struggles, all the things going on, he should have just sucked it up and gotten through it. Sure, you can criticize him for that, but it doesn't change the reality that, yeah, all these different factors. I mean, I got to imagine it's got to affect play, not just from him, but just, across the board. So maybe this season is a bit of a rejuvenation, but you also have to factor in the age. And now I'm not going to go Max Kellerman and say just because he's X age, or, not just Max, but like a lot of people did it with Brady. Oh, he's 40. Of course he's going to fall off the cliff. No. I mean, I need to see a great physical decline for me to believe anything like that. So that remains to be seen. I think he's still going to have a solid season this year. I just don't think it's going to be on that 2020 level.
I mean, I've brought this up numerous times in our conversations. He's had 22 straight games without a 300-yard passing game. Now, that's not the barometer for greatness, right? You could throw for 285, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and you win, 34-10. There's no need to throw for 300 yards because you're playing from in front. But, we're also talking about during that stretch where they've been essentially a 500 team over that 22-game stretch, right? So there had to be situations in there when he needed to throw for 300 plus yards and he wasn't able to. If he has a season this year where he throws 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4,400 yards, passer rating at 105, 106, I think the Jets will certainly make the playoffs, and that's certainly going to be good enough to make them a contender in the AFC. But if he plays like he did last year, where he, quite frankly, looked disinterested, and it felt like in the offseason he was disinterested, let alone when Christian Wilkerson dropped the first pass of the season when he was wide open. It almost felt like he checked out at that point. So let's hope Garrett Wilson doesn't beat the defense on opening night and Rodgers drops a dime in his lap and he drops it because, I don't expect him to check out this year because it's a different situation. But, yeah, I mean, look, this is going to be the most followed team, especially early in the season, see what type of start they get off to.
And, sorry, my mic was muted. Rookie mistake. And, of course, I mean, the fact that being on Hard Knocks, I mean, that spotlight's going to be even ever more present. And, look, he was on the sidelines coaching Zach Wilson, who I thought he looked pretty good in his limited time, Good, you want to look, if you're Zach Wilson, you want to take advantage of this opportunity because he's still a young quarterback. I mean, this is the thing. This is not a 5-year veteran who's getting displaced, who's still yet to figure it out. No, I mean, this is a kid who's, he's getting a little bit older, but at the same time, there's an opportunity for him to really learn. Now, is Aaron Rodgers going to be, on his side like the entire season, and once the season gets underway, is Rodgers going to have a little bit less time or patience rather, when he has to deal with all the week to week stuff he has to deal with? I don't know, but if you're Zach Wilson, you got to sit here and say, hey, I got an opportunity to learn behind one of the greats in the game. I can revitalize my career because, similar play styles in terms of athletic ability, and just obviously Zach Wilson idolized Aaron Rodgers. So there's a lot of opportunity here for him to grow. And look, if you're a Jets fan, you're hoping that, you get, kind of a 2-for-1. You get Aaron Rodgers and then you get, a young kid learning under him. And, maybe he can maximize that talent.
Yeah, I mean, you're a cat guy, right? So when you bring in a kitten, sometimes the older cat doesn't really want to deal with the kitten, right? Kind of looks at the kitten as like a nuisance, and obviously cats are territorial, and also quarterbacks are very territorial. But I do think because it's such a massive age difference, and I'm sure Rodgers in the back of his mind figures he has 2 good years left, maybe 3, that I think he'll embrace Zach Wilson. But again, time will be against Zach Wilson because, again, after this year, the Jets have to make that decision on the 5th-year option, which is a pretty sizable financial commitment. If they're pretty sure Rodgers is going to give them 2 years and that Zach Wilson is developed, they'll give him that 5th-year option knowing that in 2025 he'll be their starting quarterback. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. And like you said, Aaron Rodgers is Zach Wilson's idol. That's his favorite quarterback growing up. So, there's that to work with, obviously. And maybe does Rodgers push back a little bit because it wasn't that great with Brett Favre when he sat behind Brett Favre for 3 years. The relationship with Rocky, they're fine now, but go back 15, 16, 17 years ago, it wasn't all that good. And you know how Rodgers has quite the memory. May say, well, no one really embraced me my first 3 years. Why the hell am I embracing this guy?
Yeah, but I think part of it. But at the same time, when it gets down to it, that's easy to say during the preseason. But when it's week 10, week 11, I don't think, if it's not necessarily in his nature, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like he has a job to do too. Like he shouldn't be spending a large chunk of his time coaching. I mean, that's what coaches are for. Like he's there to certainly be a good example and teach Zach Wilson. But I mean, what do you expect him to commit hours and hours every week when he should be focused on the game at hand? Because he's got work to do too. So, I'm not knocking him for not spending every waking hour with Zach Wilson. So I wonder if it will kind of wane a little bit, as the season goes on, because again, the responsibilities for Aaron Rodgers becomes bigger. And certainly if they're in contention, that the pressure and everything becomes, more and more heightened and everything like that. So, But yeah, so it was good to get a taste of some football yesterday. I was pretty excited about that. Not gonna lie. Your guy Mercedes Lewis though will not be joining the Jets.
No, is he eligible for the Hall of Fame already? I mean, they just
No,
gonna
no, no.
bypass the
He
5-year
signed
wait?
with the Bears.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
not know that. I sound
yeah.
like Johnny Carson.
No, I saw it
I
this
did
morning.
not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of interesting because he still wants to play, and I know he's very close with Aaron Rodgers. He's nearly Aaron Rodgers' age. But maybe the dollars were just more in Chicago. Maybe he wants to play with Justin Fields, who I think is an ascending quarterback.
Didn't the Bears just have an injury, or am I? No, that might have been the Lions. I'm sorry. I was
the
thinking,
Lions had an issue at tight end, right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised. I thought Mercedes Lewis was going to sign with the Jets like before Aaron Rodgers was there, like Alan Lazard.
Yeah,
but that's when you knew he was going to end up with the Jets when the Jets signed Alan Lazard very early in free agency. But Mercedes.
Oh, think I lost John there. So we'll get him back here. We'll get him back here in just a second. I think we had a little connection issue, but as soon as he pops up here, all right, there he is. There he is. Sorry,
I think hang up on
me. Technology failed us this morning, John. I'm sure you were making the greatest point you ever made in your life. And
I always do.
It's always the case. Yeah. Every great point you've ever made, we've always lost connection. It's a shame that we don't have any of that on audio.
Couldn't happen when I didn't know Mercedes Lewis signed. Yeah, that's when Mercedes Lewis signed with the Bears.
I'll go back. I'll
edit that out, will you?
Yeah, I'll go back for the audio version. I'm sorry, I got distracted by a cat on the not top 10 list. So you're right, cats distract me. I'm a cat person. So.
Oh yeah, there's a top 10 list of cats now. Like what type of cats?
Like
cats, tuxedo cats, like whatever other cats there. I've never owned a cat. I'm actually allergic to cats, so that's why I can't visit you.
Well, it's all right. Oh, well, trust me. I think you'll be fine. If not, I have a shed you can stay in.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Minimal cat hair.
Yeah. I'm Kato Kalin for O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, Mercedes Lewis, he is not going to be a Jet, so that reunion will not be happening. But like I said, I mean, we're going to get our little bit of a taste, and each fan base is going to get their taste of their starters for the most part at some point in the next few weeks. But the reality of it is we just need to get to the second week of September. We need real football because, this fake stuff I can't deal with anymore. So, but anyways, that's gonna do it for us here today. We'll be back on Monday to kind of, maybe we'll wrap up some more NFL news. Maybe there'll be some more signings. Who knows? Who knows, John? But we will be back and we'll be talking about something. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you then.